You're welcome along to the two-man wall with Johnny Ward and Adam Russell, and we speak to you the morning after the Liverpool Spurs game. So we're going to talk about the title race, but specifically we're going to start with the managerial sack race, because at the bottom, West Brom, Slaven Bilic having a bad start to the season, Sheffield United obviously having a very bad start, Arsenal having a really, really poor run of form. But of the three managers of those clubs, Bilic, Slaven Bilic is the one to have gone. Now, Adam, what does all this mean in terms of the relegation race? And did you feel that Bilic was a little bit hard done by? I would argue nearly of those three managers, you could actually cut him a bit of slack, maybe more than the other two.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a surprise to see Slav getting sacked yesterday. I think what was interesting for me is why they decided to wait until after the Man City game. They clearly made their mind up at the weekend that he was going to be sacked. So why did they wait until he'd gone to Man City and got what was a very respectable draw at Man City? And it was a fully deserved draw. They didn't fluke their way to a point by any means at the Etihad on Tuesday night. They played well and they deserved it. So it was a bit of a surprise to see Slav go. The fact that they brought in Sam Allardyce as a replacement may give you some indication as why they've done that, because they might have been worried that, say, Fulham or Sheffield United or even, say, Burnley, for example, pulled the trigger on their manager. Then they may well have been looking at Sam Allardyce. So they may have looked at it and said, if we are going to bring in a new manager and we want Big Sam, then we've got to act quickly in order if we're going to get him. But obviously everyone will be delighted to see Big Sam back in the Premier League, the mastermind of escaping relegation. He's done it countless times, Sunderland and West Ham, Everton, of course, and now he's going to take his skills down to West Brom. His big thing, as we all know, is if you can concede less than a goal a game as a relegation-threatened club, then you'll probably stay up. And that's obviously been West Brom's problem this season. They've conceded 26 goals already this season. And as you know, if you're going to concede 2 goals a game, it's highly unlikely that you're going to survive. So
they've flicked around their systems a bit as well. Like, what's interesting from an Irish perspective is that Darragh O'Shea has been actually playing quite a bit. Now, he might lose his plays, but on the flip side, maybe he'll play in a defensive structure that will improve under Allardyce. So you can kind of see why they do this, because Allardyce generally does get teams organised, and, you know, they were in a pretty bad place as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's going to be the first thing he sets about doing is making them hard to beat and hard to score against. And yeah, I think they've got every chance of staying up. But I thought that before they got rid of Slav, I think there's plenty of teams in the division this year that aren't really that good. And it's just a matter of not being the worst amongst them. And I think West Brom have got a chance, especially now they've brought Big Sam in. They're currently 1-4 to be relegated, and only Sheffield United are shorter than that at 1-5. So the market is against them. And to be honest, yeah, I don't think they've got enough, particularly going forward. I don't think they'll score enough goals to stay up. But by bringing in someone with the experience of Big Sam, they've given themselves every chance.
Well, I suppose what's important as well is that, as you mentioned, Sheffield United have made such a bad start. I spoke to Flynn Goward about this on Trader Chat on Monday, just because I watched them actually on Sunday, and they just looked like a team that had no confidence whatsoever. Now, at the same time, Chris Wilder's managed to hold on to his job, but he is second favourite rather, in the managerial sack race with Star Sports, purely on the basis that things are probably even worse in many respects for Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, and I do think that Chris Wilder's obviously got some credit in the bank at Sheffield United that Mikel doesn't have yet. Obviously, he's where he took them from in League One to be where they finished in the Premier League last season, finished top half, and were contesting for Europe at one point, and he has done a remarkable job. And you can even argue with the way that they played, they've kind of revolutionised top-flight football. You look at the amount of teams now that are playing 5 at the back with overlapping centre halves. That was the tactic that Chris Wilder pioneered in many ways. So he certainly had an impact on them and on the league in general. And I think that they'll give him a chance to bring them back up if they do go down, which is why I think with Mikel, Arsenal were awful again last night, and they have been. I just think he's in real danger. I've spoken to a lot of people who are in the know, and they seem to think that he'll be given time, but it's felt like this disastrous season for Arsenal has been coming for a long time. Like even before Mikel, it seems to be sort of a hangover from the Wenger era. They haven't cleared out the players, and we're still talking about the same problems with Arsenal that we were talking about 3-4 seasons ago. So it's going to be a really difficult one for Mikel to turn around. But yeah, 5-4 for him at the minute, 9-4 Wilder to be the next manager sacked. Solskjaer still in there at 8, despite a reasonable sort of recovery from United in recent weeks. And Scott Parker, who was actually my pick to be first manager sacked this season, is 14, just below the bar at 16th.
Yeah, and Fulham actually one of the teams that have managed to halt Liverpool and could well have actually nearly beaten Liverpool at the weekend. When we were supposed to have this show before the game last night, or before the games this week, I was saying to you, I can't get my head around how Man City are 7-4 for the title. They're the same price as Liverpool, who to me were the more likely winners. And Gary Neville he said at the weekend after the Manchester Derby, he said they're a shadow of the team they were. I couldn't agree more with him. I don't see any spark in this team to make them the price they were, notwithstanding that they've had a pretty poor start. Now, last night's result has changed this because Liverpool have gone into 5-4, City are out to 9-4, Spurs, who were very little possession last night, 13-2, Chelsea, who had a ropey weekend, 8-1, Man United hanging on in there at 14s. I just think Liverpool are so solid, Adam, because as many problems as they've had, they're still managing to dominate a lot of games. And even in last night's game against Spurs, they were comfortably the better team for large stages. And this is without some key players. Still have Thiago to come back in, and they're back into 5-4 now, which I think is fair.
Yeah, it's a very fluid market, this Premier League outlet market at the minute. Up until, I would agree with you, that up until last night, there wasn't really a team that had set themselves above the rest and really sort of stood out as, okay, these guys are probably the front runners. And I think the market has kind of gone with that. The question would have been, for a lot of punters, yes, it's close, but which teams have got the capability to put together a consistent run of form to kind of propel themselves away from the other contenders? And in my opinion, Liverpool are obviously one of them, and the other one are Man City. If everything clicks for them, we know that they've got the ability, the players, they've got everything there to put together a run that takes them to within touching distance of the title. I think the market will have been a bit tentative about that. Obviously, now we're at 13 games into the season. We can look at this Man City team and say, okay, this isn't a blip in form. This isn't a slow start. It's just this team isn't what it was 2 years ago. I've spoke about this on the show before, but for me, it's David Silva is the biggest loss. They've obviously had to deal with losing senior players in previous years. I'm thinking Kompany and Yaya Toure and losing that experience. But it's not the experience with Silva. It's the tempo that he's able to keep that team playing at. I watched the game at West Brom, and I was just really disappointed with the way that they played. I thought the tempo was not
It's not there. The way they played is gone. Their pressing isn't what it was. And that, Silva was probably slowing down a bit. So Pep thought, well, I need to change that because that link play at speed is so important.
Physically, he was slowing down.
Yeah, but mentally, maybe not.
Silva is it's all up here.
20 points from 12 games. Like 20 points from 12 games is so poor for this team.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. We can look at it and we can say it's probably not a blip in form. It's that they are really struggling. What I always found about David Silva is he knew when to knock it off first time and get the tempo increasing, and he knew when to slow it down and keep possession. I think that's where they're struggling. They've got Foden in there, who hasn't really had the same experience that Silva has and just hasn't quite got it yet. And a lot of it is kind of, we'll get the ball to De Bruyne and we'll hope that he can then create something for us. And I think
totally,
yeah, they just need somebody in the midfield, I think, just to get things ticking over. So it'll be interesting to see if they go into the market in January. I know that the January market has slowed down a lot in recent years, but when you can see that there's an obvious issue, I think City might well go and try and fix that in January.
Yeah, it's funny. I think Liverpool have done remarkably well considering they've actually had lots of VAR calls like that. Maybe in other seasons they would have gotten even Son's goal last night. That might be deemed offside by a linesman in another era. They have had little things go against them, but they're finding a way to win games. Now they're going to Palace at the weekend. For me, the interesting game of the weekend's fixtures is actually probably the aforementioned City at Southampton, who've had a really good season. Another great result against Arsenal. 11-2 Southampton. I'm all over that. I think this game will be a lot closer than the betting suggests. I think City are trading on reputation. Let's go back to the league table for a moment. Southampton at the moment are third with 24 points. Manchester City have 20 points from 12 games. They're going to be behind them whatever happens. You're getting 11-2 about a team that does have a little bit of a home support and help them on against Sheffield United at the weekend. I like that 11-2, Adam. Am I wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong at all. I've been really impressed with Southampton and the way they've played. They've got a very solid back line now. I think Yannick Vestergaard has been really, really impressive at the back for them. He's a big physical presence and he demands the space in the box really well. I think they've got pace up front. They've obviously got goals in Danny Ings. They've got James Ward-Prowse, who's great on set pieces and has been great at delivering from those, I call them the De Bruyne Alexander areas, sort of right penalty area, just behind that, sort of whipping in those first-time crosses. He's been really effective for them. And so 11-4, I thought was good. 17-4, Southampton to beat City, but draw no bet.
Right.
So that's the one that I'd go for.
Yep.
That's very solid. I think double chance, Southampton draw. That's 9-5. I think that's a really solid bet if you're worried about whether they can actually get over the line. But yeah, I think there's some really good games this weekend. There's no like big six teams facing off. There's no like big games as you would call them. But like you mentioned, we've also got Southampton against City. We've got Tottenham against Leicester, Everton against Arsenal. I think there's some really interesting fixtures this weekend. So it's going to be an interesting weekend of football, hopefully.
I think that Man United Leeds game actually could be really fascinating. You know, they were in free scoring form again last night against Newcastle. I actually laid them against West Ham after a few beers last weekend. Yeah. Didn't put an awful lot of thought into it, but it worked out grand in the end. I still think they're
the best bets, the ones you
know. And then like I was kind of wasn't really watching the game, and then I turned it on and I had a few people over and they were 1-0 down. So I was like, I'll lay them again. Sure, why not? I was kind of playing with winnings on the night. But they have a set piece Achilles heel, to be fair. And I think West Ham are actually very solid this season. That game, you know, first time Man United played Leeds in Old Trafford in some time in the league. That's going to be fascinating.
Yes, it's been 17 years going on since they faced off at Old Trafford. Obviously, you would have loved to have had a full house packing out Old Trafford. But yeah, it's obviously not to be. But yeah, I really like that Everton-Arsenal game as well. I think those two are very evenly matched this season. So I think we could see an interesting game there. To be honest, I think Arsenal will shut up shop. And I think Everton will make most of the running in that game. I was looking at the relegation market and Arsenal, obviously, 33-1 to be relegated. That's shorter than Aston Villa and West Ham. Now, who would have thought that at the start of the season, that we'd be talking about West Ham near the top and Arsenal near the bottom? It's incredible. Aubameyang obviously managed to get himself back on the score sheet last night, and that could be a big boost for Arsenal. Whenever I've watched him, I've just found that he's not getting into positions to score goals. I like Aubameyang as a central striker, and he's obviously got that Henry-like quality of drifting out to the left and picking up the ball in positions where the centre halves are not sure whether to come and make a challenge for him or not. But when he's out on the left, when he's playing on the left, he just hugs the touchline on that left-hand side, which is fine if you're a natural winger. But when he gets the ball, his first instinct is just to come inside. So it just kills all that width down the left-hand side. And he's not getting into position to score goals. So if I was Arteta, I'd be looking at, okay, we need to change that. We need to get Aubameyang down the middle. We need to get him into a position where he can score the goals that we need.
Absolutely.
Especially if Lacazette's not playing or not playing well, certainly. They haven't got another goal threat. They don't really have any goals in midfield, so they're going to have to get the most out of him if they want to succeed. So obviously, yeah, it might be a boost. I think it's a badly run football club, Arsenal, at the minute. And I think that's where the issue lies. Is we can point the finger at the manager. Obviously, Mikel 5-4 to be the next one to leave. But as I say, we've been talking about these same issues for years. What is different this year is we're talking about an Arsenal team that doesn't have enough creativity, which for an Arsenal side, it's the complete antithesis of the problem normally. Normally they've got 5 attacking midfielders in the squad and it's no one wants to bother defending. Now they don't have any creativity in midfield. They've got Ozil sat at home playing Fortnite on 250 grand a week doing nothing. They're looking at young Martinelli to come back into the side. I think he might make a difference because he can pass the ball through the lines and he can dribble with the ball and beat people. I think that's what they need. But I think it's a badly run football club. You look at the signings they make. You're going to bring in cast-offs from your Premier League rivals. You can't then expect to compete at the top end. It's not going to work. Everton are going to be boosted by their win against Chelsea, kind of bouncing back from a few recent results. And I think they'll win. I think Everton to win on the 2.5 goals. That's 4-1 with Star at the minute. I think that's a good bet. I can't see it being a thriller in terms of 6-7 goals, anything like that. So I'd stick to a low scoring game, and I think Everton will win.
Very hard to see punters really coming for Arsenal there. Before we finish up, it's time for the Trader Challenge on Star Sports. So keep an eye out for this on social media and on the website. Sam Ravel versus Rory Fleming. Who will come out on top? They're giving predictions for Thursday night's Premier League fixtures. And don't forget the big one on Saturday. Bolton against Tranmere, 3 o'clock, 5-4, the Wanderers.
Yeah, we're a bit of a turnaround in our form. We pinched a last-minute winner against Cheltenham away the other night. So that was good. I've got a few other bets for the weekend though. Obviously Tottenham against Leicester. Leicester have sort of started to struggle a little bit in recent weeks. They obviously lost to Everton on Tuesday night. They've now lost as many home games this season as they did last season. And obviously Tottenham were impressive against Liverpool. I think they put everyone on notice that they're not going anywhere. They're going to be thereabouts at the end of the season. They're currently 13-2 in the outright market for the Premier League. So potentially a bit of interesting each way value there if you think maybe they'll finish second and come up just short. But yeah, the weekend I'm going Tottenham to win, under 2.5 goals again. Son to score any time, that's 16-1. And I'm also a bit of a rogue one. Brighton are going to play in Sheffield United. Brighton will score, I imagine. And I think Leandro Trossard to score any time, 23-10, good value in that Brighton game. And we've spoken about Man City and Southampton already. So yeah, that's me for the weekend. Good luck to the punters and good luck to you, Johnny.
Beautiful shout, Adam, and we shall talk to you before Christmas. And thanks to everyone for watching.
Thanks, guys.